Well, I would like to welcome you to the show, everybody. This is a special presentation of ProLib Live. This is Requiem for the GDC, Episode 5. Episode 5. So far, we've talked to Sock Account, we've talked to Holy Spackle, we have talked to Chris Mowdy, and we've talked to Nate Brody. Tonight, we're talking to Laura. Laura's not ready just yet. She's not with us just yet, but in the meantime, I figured you and I could talk. We haven't done that in a while. How you doing? You doing okay? I have a new show that I've been doing over on Twitch called Content Curation, where I have a content creator on, and we talk about the content process, what inspires them, advice for people who are content creators or aspiring content creators. So far, I've talked with Burnt Toast, was my first guest. My second guest was a pairing, was Trans Garter, that is Shay and Callan. And tomorrow, on Content Curation, Godless Engineer will join me tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, over on Twitch. You have to go to twitch.tv/prolib if you want to watch it live. It will then be on YouTube a day or so later because the rules with Twitch, since I'm an affiliate there, I can't co-stream something on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. It's got to be 24 hours between when I do something on Twitch and when it appears on YouTube. The rules, I got to follow it. But I'm very, very excited. For those of you who don't know, my channel basically got its start when Godless Engineer's wife talked about one of my videos called What is a Fetal Heartbeat? And then Godless Engineer did a video where he talked about it explicitly and put it in the description. And then he did a call-in show, and then I called into the show, and then we became friends. And we did a video together on his channel not long after that. And we haven't done anything since. We keep going back and forth. We need to do something. 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 And finally, I reached out to him last week. I'm like, hey, do you want to do this? Or 2 weeks ago. And I said, do you want to do this thing? And he said, yeah. So I'm very, very excited because, again, it's different. It's a different side of content creators that you don't usually get to see. Talk about their process and to talk about what inspires them as content creators. And I'm really, really excited to do that with GE. He and his wife are inspirations for me. And I like them both very, very much. Yeah. So I'm really, really excited. Make sure you're following twitch.tv/prolib so that you don't miss that live if you want to watch it live. Yeah, so the other thing that's coming up is another episode of Trek It, which I've only done one episode of, and I need to do more of. And that will be next week. I'm not ready to announce the guest for that, but yes, another episode 2 of Trek It will be next week. And then part of next week into the week after that, I won't be streaming much because I'm moving. We did sell the house, and the house closes on the 14th of August. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening starting like the middle of next week into the week after. So I won't really be here doing a lot because I won't be able to because I'll be moving. And then wherever I move, I've got to set up all the stuff and everything. So you're going to miss me for a little bit, but before you know it, you'll be sick of me again. Sinister Porpoise sends $2 and says Laura's awesome, but not Lara. Lara is different. Lara is different from Laura, yes. And please don't conflate the two again. They're two very, very different people. I look a little sad. No, I think I'm just tired. I had a very long work day. I started my work day at about 8 and then finished about 5. And it was a challenging work day. A very challenging work day. It was productive. I have a few interviews tomorrow, some people I might be hiring. And so I got to connect with them today, and there's a process you have to go through because you have to have a license to do what I do. And so, you can't just hire anybody. But yeah, that's probably all. I'm probably just tired. No, Ulf, I appreciate it. Laura's on the way. She just needs a few minutes. That's all. That's not it's not a big deal. And the link's already sent out to her. And then if I gave you a new link, then when she was ready to have to get a new link, like it would be a whole deal. I appreciate it, but it would be more work than it was worth. Marcy, it will be some kind of new studio space. Yes, I don't actually know exactly what house I'm going to be living in yet. That was another big part of my day, was talking with property management firms and real estate agents and stuff to try to nail down where I'm going to be living. So, and that's exhausting. That's just tiring work, you know? But yeah, no, I'm totally good. I'm happy. I'm actually really, really excited to talk to Laura. I hate that that she's running a little behind, but it happens. It's not a big deal. Don't forget to forward my address to all the relevant authorities. You know, I actually have to, because I have a license. And in order to practice, in order to keep doing what I'm doing while I'm in North Carolina, which I can, it's perfectly legal, I still have to inform the correct state departments of my new address and everything. So actually, I do have to forward my address to relevant authorities. There are relevant authorities. Like, I know I could at least lose my license, and I think fined if I were to not let them know. And I only have like 10 days to do it. I have to do it like really, really quick too. So, will my soundproofing tiles stay the same size? Yes, because they're just taped to the wall. Like, they're just taped there with double-sided tape. These are coming with me. They're all just coming down, and I won't need to get a green screen and have fake ones, if that's your question. Yeah, Mary, I'm not. I mean, I enjoy the process of looking for new places, but it's stressful, especially when you have a dog that's the size of Franklin. That's the biggest holdup that I have so far, and I'm muting my phone. That's the biggest holdup I have so far, is because he's 95 pounds. Lots of places are like, yeah, you can have a dog as long as it's under 30 pounds. I called a guy today, actually, one of the guys I talked to, and I told him about Franklin, that Franklin was my dog. He's like, the only thing that I have that would allow a dog that size is it was basically somebody's loft that they were renting out. I could rent out somebody's loft. And I was like, no. Nope. Yeah, his tiles are, like, they're obviously fake, because these tiles, well, I've got some freestanding ones somewhere. I don't know. They're only a foot by, they're not big. They're just little tiny, little tiny tiles. They're not like huge, massive things. They're 1 foot by 1 foot. I think you can get bigger ones. You can get like, they have like rolls of like eggshell material that you can put up, which I thought about, but then I was like, well, I'm going to sell the house. Like, I'm just going to put up something that goes up and comes down easily. It took me probably, I don't know, 2 hours to do all of this, 3 hours to do all of this, and they're just, like I said, it's just double-sided tape. They'll just come right off the wall. A couple of the ones back here fall down all the time. We have to put them back up, actually. Oh, wow, Linda, what kind of dog do you have? Is that like a Great Pyrenees or something? Andrew, it is systematic Labrador inequality. You are absolutely correct. It is systematic Labrador inequality. That is correct. I don't cut off my arm when it's almost like I'm in an actual space and that there's no green screen behind me, isn't it? Isn't that weird? Mary, I am currently only looking at houses because I have him, and I don't want to put him. He's used to being able to go outside and go, because I have a 6-foot privacy fence around my yard. So he's used to just going outside, doing his business, or doing whatever he needs to do and coming back inside. So I don't want to put him into an apartment if I don't have to. But if we get to a place where I can't find any houses, that's what we're going to have to do. Ope says, I've decided to emulate you and Dragnaut somewhat in streaming. Good ideas. I will borrow them. Okay, well, hey, listen. Everything... It's very rare to find somebody that does content curation today who doesn't do something similar to somebody else. What we're doing today is basically based around what Imus and Howard Stern were doing in talk radio 50 years ago, I guess, now? Something along those lines, 40, 50 years ago. And all of what they were doing was based upon what people were doing on television, which is based upon what people were doing on vaudeville. Like, if you should have... My advice for anybody that wants to get into streaming, we'll do this. Why not? Don't worry about doing something unique. Worry about being yourself when you do it, and it will be unique, right? No one has my thoughts. There are plenty of people that think similarly to me that that present in a way that's similar to me, that use, I mean, some of the graphics I use are just publicly available, that I bought a pack, right? So you'll see them on other people's channels. I know Epis Vox uses them. Defango uses them. The pack that I download has been downloaded like 30,000 times or something. So as content creator, you can't really worry about being like, I have to do something completely unique or I can't do anything at all. You just have to be yourself. Just be genuine and it'll be unique because it's you and not someone else. Mike G says, we're shopping houses now and prices are stupid insane. They are. Don't even get me started on housing right now. It's so ridiculously expensive. I'm talking about like 3-bedroom houses, 1,200 square feet, $1,800 a month. I wish I was exaggerating. It's insane how expensive it is. Out in the mountains in North Carolina. Like, there's nothing there except mountains. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. But yeah, very expensive. Plus, you know, again, I'm limited because I have to take Franklin with me. So, all my social media communities have drama going on, and I'm over here like, I want to buy a new curling bra. Bar, not bra. Yeah, you know, the issue with drama is that every community has it, but to different extents, right? Like, I follow these guys, Jay's 2 Cents and Gamers Nexus, which it gets some of my nerd in, right? I get to watch stuff on graphics cards and processors and whatnot, and they have drama in their communities where, like, you know, Linus Tech Tips puts out a video and they're like, "Oh, Linus got a thing wrong. We're going to show you what it is," and that's their equivalent of drama. Over here, you have people like calling people's work to try to get them fired, right? So it's definitely a different level of drama than saying, "Oh, Linus, you got a decimal place wrong when you benchmarked your Threadripper," right? But yeah, and I'm not. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing content curation. One of the reasons why I'm doing more on the Twitch channel is to get away from all of that. Because, you know, some measure of it is interesting and compelling, even for me. Obviously, that's why I talk about it. But at the same time, I don't want it to become... I don't want to be a drama channel. That would be boring. I don't want to... It would not just be boring. It would be exhausting. Like, every single day trying to find something else, some other drama thing to talk about all the time. Like, that just sounds... like I just got tired and just thinking about it. Secret Squirrel sends £2. Have a good show. We'll watch after sleep. Thanks, Secret Squirrel. I appreciate it. Although, not sure I need more pounds right now. Not sure I need that. Why did Constantinople get the works? What? I don't know. I missed something. You need a 9th generation Ryzen? I would like a 9th generation Ryzen. Those things are expensive, though. Oh, yes, The Verge building a PC. That was a huge, huge drama thing on Tech YouTube. They were complete and utter idiots and assholes about it. Yeah, the housing and renting in Norway is off the scales. Like, we have a housing crisis. There was like, the housing bubble's going to pop. And it's like, no, maybe prices might return to normal. But that's not the same as a housing bubble popping. The problem is that housing is too expensive everywhere in the Western world. Mary says, the interesting thing is drama always seems to center around one person in each community. Yeah, or a group of people tend to be the drama causers, I guess is the right word, or right moniker. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I'm not going to become a drama channel. I'm not. I don't care enough. I don't care enough. From time to time, some people are good at drama and thrive on it. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, Mike, you said it right. Redundant. Yes, it gets redundant, especially if you're going after the same person for the same thing for months at a time, like a certain person I might mention. It's just as boring. It's like, well, why do you care so much? I'm watching Hana on Twitch while watching this. Can I multitask? I can multitask. Okay, awesome. That's awesome. Nobody's business but the Turks. Okay. All right. I get it. I've called the guy from Level 1 Techs. Level 1 Techs. I don't remember. I don't recognize that channel. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think that's somebody I watch all the time. Ulf sends $5, Norwegian. If you do a drama channel, you can't stop. It's a never-ending spiral. Yeah. And I like doing stuff like this where I just talk to you guys, too. Like, this is... When my channel first started, and I first started to, like, get serious about it, one of the things we used to do on Mixer was I would just play video games and talk to you guys. There were a lot less of you back then. You know, there was 5 to 10 of you. It was, like, Maya, Neko, Tony, Batsy, Vivian. That was about it most of the time. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody from the old crew. If I am, remind me. And we would just play around on Mixer. Like, it's one of the things that I really like about Twitch is that not a lot of people follow over there. So when we do streams, it's only like 10 people in the chat. It's a lot easier to, like, follow, and it just feels more intimate, you know? 8 million missed July's payment. Wow. 8 million people missed their rent in July. Oof. Lady Starfire says, drama is more prevalent now. People are stuck at home and bored, so looking for things that are interesting. Drama can be interesting. I don't think drama is interesting. I think drama is compelling because it compels you to engage. But it's not often interesting. But it can be compelling in the right context. Oh, I missed your comment about grilling. I'm sorry, Shay. I apologize. I bet it was a good one. You can say it again. Maybe I'll see it. Andrew says, I like how we're making drama out of the increased presence of drama. Well, yeah. It's more like just being exhausted by it. You know? It's more like just... Sometimes it's a little much. Sometimes it makes me want to delete everything. Maybe not that far. No police. Police bad. Okay. Shay and I are on the same problem there. The Holy Spackle says, problem with drama channels, they start to manufacture things. You and him fight, or they just spew information without really knowing the players. Yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. Hi, Darth Chaz. How are you? We're waiting for Laura. Oh, she's here. Hi. Okay, hold on. No, you're good. You're good. I gotta fix you. I gotta fix your not your camera. The placement. Hold on. I can't hear you yet. Hold on. I have to fix it so that... Are you okay with having your face on screen? Give me a thumbs up if you're okay with having your face, because I can't hear you. Okay. Because I wasn't sure, so I put a thing in the way so that we wouldn't see you if you weren't okay. There you are, so I need to... Oh, I just flipped you upside down. That would not be good. Or maybe it would. Maybe you would like to appear upside down. I don't know. Hold on. We don't have your audio yet. Hold on. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest this evening is Laura. All right. Now we can hear you. Hi, Laura. Nope. Are you muted?
Hi. I'm terribly sorry I'm late.
Wait.
I could have sworn it was...
Hold on. I can't hear you. Hold on. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Now say something.
Can you hear me now?
Now? Oh, wait. Wait, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Hold on. Because I had to change all of this the other night because it was coming in it was coming in stereo. Make sure you're not doing the same thing. Okay. The audience can hear you. I can't hear you. The audience can hear you fine. Okay. I'm the one who can't hear you right now. Okay, your channel is okay. That's okay. And then... All right, say something.
Can you hear me now?
See, you're echoing.
Yeah.
Why are you echoing? It's nothing on your end. It's on my end. Don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong. Has nothing to do with you. Let me turn this down. Okay, let me turn this back up. Say something again.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Anything?
No, no, it's still on my end. Hold on. Okay, go again.
How about now?
Okay, go again.
And now? Echo
Say it
again.
again. Okay.
Echo.
Why is it still doing? Oh,
Echo.
I know why. Nope. Okay, I fixed it. Hi.
How about now?
It's okay. Yeah. Now you're fine. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
We had an issue the other night when Uncivil Law joined us, and I had to change how the bus routed. Okay, so as always on Requiem, your comments are front and center. Batsy will handle those. I'm not going to touch them. Laura, first of all, thank you for being here.
I apologise for being late.
No. It's okay.
I just wanted it started at 2 in the morning
It's okay.
for me.
It's all right. That's okay. Maybe I got the time. You're on a very different time zone too, so that could be it. It could have just been a miscommunication. But again, it's okay. We hung out for a few minutes and we talked. So,
yeah,
it was fine.
So we're already live.
We are already live. I've warmed them up for you. I was your what do they call it? Your intro tonight. So the audience is warm. They're ready to hear from you. And thank you very much for being here, first of all.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
I want to start with you the way that I've started with everybody else on this series with, how did you first find the GDC?
Well, if we're talking about the Grey Debate community as a whole, rather than Stephen Cray's little club, then I basically met a crazy street preacher in Manchester called Jason Burns. And, there's a load of history behind it all. But effectively what happened was, he gave me some things to think about. I came home, looked some stuff up, and then I discovered he's got a channel. Oh, let's have a look. Let's see what he's got to say. And that's when I discovered that he was a maniac. That he was just like full of bluster and ego. And he, said he was a vast scholar of Christianity and things like that. And so I ended up bumping into other things that was going on. And, it's like with YouTube, you got links lead to links and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, down the rabbit hole.
So they were talking about him. And it's like, okay, well, let's chat to some of those people. And that's how I found Fundamentally Flawed. So, and I'll just give you an idea of how crazy Jason Burns was. Mm-hmm. So he had this kind of weird cycle, a bit like Shani has a cycle. He had this weird thing where he would demand, scholarly academic debates. And if someone, decided, okay, yeah, go on, let's do it, he would then make a series of videos telling them how, they were wrong and, he was going to win anyway. They might as well not even bother turning up. And then as it got closer, he would then bottle it. He would then chicken out. And then he would then make videos why it was their fault that he was chickening out, But not only that, there was this strange thing that he had where he basically would make a video and then people would comment it saying, you're wrong because science, philosophy, whatever. And then he would consider that as attacking him personally.
This is Jason Burns who you're talking about.
This is Jason Burns, yeah.
Okay.
So, like, for example, he made a video saying, when he goes out on the street, there's all these nice atheists out there, but the ones on the internet are horrible. And it's like, well, this is the reason. The reason why is because, and I explained this to him, but he wouldn't have it. If you're the average Joe on the street, you don't know about philosophy, you don't know a lot about religion, you know a bit, and so you just can have a nice conversation.
Sure.
He would run rings around them because they're not into the system, if you know what I mean. They're not into
street epistemology, essentially.
Yeah. Right. So, but the ones on the internet are awful, and it's like, no, the ones on the internet know your arguments probably better than you do, and the reason why they're wrong. And like I say, he would take offense to that. But not only would he put himself on the battlefield and then complain at being shot at, but he would give people really great ammunition against him. Because a little bit like G-Man, he'd say really stupid things sometimes. And the best example is, do you remember ASCII pictures?
Of course.
How you make like rabbits out of big waste signs? Yeah. Sure. So Google used to have, I think it was something like 300 or 600 characters that you could leave under a video as a comment, and you couldn't put web links or anything like that. The best you could do was put watch equals, that kind of thing.
Right.
Give me a second. Let me just get a drink. So what? So about 15 seconds after Google decided they were going to allow you to put pretty much whatever you wanted, people started poking pictures of erect ASCII penises. And I was involved in cycle cameras at the time, and people hate cyclists for weird reasons. And so so I was seeing loads of these things all over different videos. Jason Burns got 3 under one video, and he made a video and he's saying, look at this. And he's like got his camera pointing at his monitor, and he's like touching the end of this erect penis ASCII picture as well. And he's like, look at this, look what they've done. I've got all these people, they've left penises, all of them all over the place. Honestly, I've had loads of these penises. And then he just comes out with the most infamous line, and he says, basically, I've had a tsunami of penises. Well, holy fuck! You can't hear a line like that. You can't put that out on the internet. Honestly, I laughed so much I had to get out of the chair and check for a puddle. Oh dear.
Oh my God! If I'd known you were going to tell the story, I'd have called this interview "Laura and the Tsunami of Penises." So we have a request for you to talk about Mr. Burns and ketchup.
Oh gosh. The problem is that this could go on for hours. So basically what happened, the short version of it, and it's a really long story. We're talking about Steve McRae levels of stuff that's been going on for years.
Right,
okay?
Sure.
So effectively what happens is he really struggles with people saying, no, you're wrong for X, Y, and Z reason. So the pressure of it was getting to him. And he would have 3 types of video on his channel. He'd have ones where he's literally ripping off someone else's stuff and sticking it on his channel, some, Christian apologetic person. He would have him plagiarizing other people's stuff by literally going to the website and just reading out what it says on the screen and calling that a scholarly academic video. And then he would have ones where he would rage about the atheists. I mean, I've got a funny picture where it was, the fall of the Rat Pack. And Jason Burns, he now lives in Ghana, I believe. He's got married, which is kind of funny because he doesn't like immigrants, Anyway, he lives, or used to live, a couple of miles that way. And I've got a funny little picture somewhere. I could probably find it if I wanted to. But someone's caught a screen grab because I had my binoculars looking out the window. And, someone's put, yep, he's making the 8th episode now. Honestly, he would just make a whole series of videos about how awful these people had been. Because what happened was he got so stressed about it, he deleted all the videos on his channel and then blamed the atheists for this, as if someone put a gun to his head or something. And it got to a point where he started up a video and he's got like blood on his face and on his arm. And he's saying that like some atheist has just chucked a brick through the window. And, it's like, and then he sort of, wipes it off and says, this isn't real blood, this is ketchup. But this is how I feel. And you can understand that. But then he makes, he makes a video, Jason Burns has died, or I can't remember what the wording was now. And so someone more fundamentally flawed, Jim Gardner, he phoned up Manchester Police and said, look, bit worried about this guy. Now, bear in mind that he has a ministry online, which is, some website, and it had his phone number on there and his address. So he basically phoned up the police to say, look, worried about this guy.
Right.
And so what happens is they send a PCSO out, which is, I don't know, it's hard to describe what they are to someone. It's like police officers, but they're not really police officers. They're hired by the council, and they've got certain powers, but not very much of a power. They can't arrest someone, for example. But they can,
I think in the US, we would call that a social worker, somebody that's there for like a mental health reason, that sort of thing.
It's more than that. they're like plastic police officers.
Okay.
They're not real police officers. They're sort of, they're under the same banner. I tell you what, let me give you an example. Think traffic cop, meter maid.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. All right, sure.
Yeah, bit closer to that. Like I say, they haven't got powers to arrest, but they can observe and report, and it's official.
Right.
Rather than just being Joe Bloggs nobody, and So what happened was PCSO goes over, speaks to Jason, and speaks to him and conference. By the way, effectively, sometimes you have to fill the vacuum with what you think might have happened. So what I think happened is that he goes along. This guy seems to be okay. He's not like a danger to himself or anybody else, but he's ranted about these atheists, and they go to his room, and he probably shows him videos, and there he's got loads of books about religion, behind him, mostly unread. And, so police officer goes away, or sorry, PCSO goes away. It's a police community support officer. So he goes away, and oh gosh, the Christian adventure novel, gosh, that's just crazy. Yeah, I don't want you to talk about that one. Because it would turn into a 50-minute, discussion.
Sure.
And it's already going too far because this is the short version. And so, so what happens is, PCSO goes away, probably files in all the paperwork, and it goes to the police, and the police contact his doctor, and Jason gets a letter saying, "Can you come in for a checkup?" And when he goes in, I've had a report about from the police about you threatening suicide or something. Well, Jason Bourne's a bit like, when you watch those sort of commercials about cancer, and sort of the doctor says you got cancer, and then you can't hear it. There's nothing else because in their head they're just swirling around, and everything they're saying is just like mumbling noises.
Right.
It's like what's Unirock's thing that
Oh, busy.
hit a little
like
bit
busy.
like that.
Yeah.
That's it. So he doesn't hear about that. In his head, he now goes, the atheists phone the police to try and get me sectioned, to try and get me mentally dragged into filled full of drugs and locked in a padded room type thing. They tried to get, well, you can't even do that, because if it was that simple, people would just get people sectioned, steal their money.
Right.
So you have to be, you'd have to be taken in and assessed. And if they assess you as a danger to someone else, then they, help put you in a secure ward for a little while until they can help you. But none of that happened. So, like I say, it's just a long, stupid story. Now, fortunately, Jason decided that he was going to go his separate ways. And, so he decided he was going to quit tackling atheism, which is great, because it was obvious he wasn't equipped to deal with people saying, no, you're wrong.
No.
Yeah.
It sound like.
Yeah. And, and another thing is, I kind of met him in person and gave him a shit time, because one of the things that happened was that he was buddies with this guy called Richard Raspberry, who... The only third person I can think of who is shittier would possibly, or maybe almost shittier. I think he's still below the Look a Pig line.
Okay.
You know who Look a Pig is?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, right. So he's below that. There is nothing Richard Raspberry wouldn't do to screw over someone he hates.
Sure.
Including making a video saying that Alex Botton had him swatted, and that that the police had spoken to him, and he'd been like crying and pleading for them not to to arrest him or whatever, and this never happened. Literally never happened. And
just made the whole story up. Just invented the whole thing.
Yeah, he just made stuff up. And so what happened was, between him and Brett Keane, they so there's a bit of a backstory to it. So what happens is, Richard Raspberry, hateful, horrible person, claimed to have qualifications on a par with Fiona Robertson, a PhD in molecular biology. Okay. Now, and he was like basically doing young Earth creationist stuff. One of the very few people in the UK that does that thing like that.
Right.
So what happens is Mike Unoya Googles his name, and not only that, on his G Plus page, it had his profile on it. You know, I'm that. I wrote this book, and you know that kind of stuff with his real name on it. And so so when Mike Unoya and Alex sort of confront him on, well, you know, we looked your name up, and you know, there's no, you know, Joshua Shelley, which is his name, and it was open. Everybody knows this.
Sure.
Well, what happened was his reaction was to delete it and say that they doxed him. And on TST that week, it was, you know, Fiona saying like, you know, I've dealt with this guy on Facebook for at least a couple of years under his real name. So this is a bullshit thing that he's playing here.
Right.
So what happened was Jason Burns next day watching this and says, basically, she's saying that she's been basically stalking him for 2 years. Right? But it gets better.
Okay. No, keep going.
Oh, it gets better. Okay. So, lady, I remember this is from years ago, so I might have a couple of things wrong, but the genesis, you know, so the gist of it is that one of Fiona's next door neighbors or something like that, someone in the area, is what, you know, has caught on this thing that Jason has said and is talking about it with a friend, and their kids overhear it and hear Fiona Robertson's a stalker and go and beat up her son. Oh, yeah, went real world. And then Richard Raspberry is like wanting to get into Fiona, I'm sorry about what happened, but that's nothing to do with me type language, you know, because it was based on what you said, you know. So it's basically one of those, it's your fault that this happened. You know, Fiona doesn't want to hear it for some strange reason.
Yeah,
I can't imagine why.
Oh my God.
You know. So, and then Jason reveals that actually he was put up to it by Brett Keane and Richard Raspberry. Now,
real quick before you continue, hold on. We've got a $5 Norwegian, essentially. Super chat from Ulf Person says, Laura, you are awesome to come on here, and that English accent is too cute. Thank you, Ulf.
Funny thing is, my accent doesn't go anywhere. And what I mean by doesn't go anywhere, my parents were in the military. And when you go to school in the military, you've got everything from, you know, you've got all walks of life. Everything from slumtown kids to, you know, the kids of officers and gentlemen. So they teach to the standard of the officers and gentlemen. So my diction, if you listen, is very formal, very, you know, strong, except for the fact I say, you know, and basically too much. A flaw I struggle to get away from.
That's okay. I do it
too. But when I tend to pick up ways that people say things sometimes. So since I've moved north, I mean, when I left, I used to live, the last place I lived was in Devon before I moved to Manchester. And honestly, I could have sounded like one of the royal kids. You know, very, very, very precise. BBC English, the kind of stuff that the Queen says, except for I didn't say one.
Right.
And so, well, when I moved to Manchester, it kind of like blended a little bit in the area. So I'll say Bath instead of Bath, and I talk quicker, and you know, I say Gunner instead of going to, things like that. So I kind of slummed down a bit.
I can forgive. You know, listen, a little bit of normalcy is good in my opinion. But I want to get back to the story. I don't want to get too distracted.
Yeah.
Continue the story for me.
So there are, you know, a few things. There's 3 things that I've really been proud of in my time in the Great Debate community. The first one is my wonderful instance with G-Man, where he basically repeated what I said and thought he'd won. So he made a video about 3 weeks before, saying there are like 1,000 to 1 more Christians than there are atheists. And I went into his hangar and I said, this isn't true. There are 30 million more atheists than there are Christians.
Right.
And he laughed and cackled for a couple of seconds and said, well, maybe things have changed since I last looked. What's your evidence? And I said, my evidence is G-Man, him, saying that Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Catholics are not Christians. And then he spent 3 minutes telling me I was wrong. He could say they were Christians because they claimed to be Christians, but they're not Christians really. Basically, they're not saved. And he thought he'd beaten me with that, and then came out with some absolutely nonsensical question, which is on the G-Man soundboard, by the way.
G-Man being nonsensical? Oh, I never would have guessed.
So that's one. The second one is Matt Slick saying he had Asperger's, and me and Hillary made a video basically saying that's bullshit. Because I went on to, he was on Baba Thumping Wingnut, and he got really pissy because I was challenging him on something that he'd been claiming. And, you know, an example of, because he, you know, he'll say he has these issues, and yet the way he describes it is like, okay, if he has Asperger's, he hasn't learned any coping strategies in his life. You know, that would make no sense.
Right.
And one of the things he said he feels physical pain when touching people.
Oh, yes,
now,
you're telling me about this, yeah.
Yeah, so people with Asperger's, one of the diagnostic elements, or one of the list of symptoms is feels uncomfortable when touched. And I think that he's read the list and said, and, you know, basically thought uncomfortable equals pain. But in fact, uncomfortable for an Aspie is kind of your mind goes racing. So, for example, I went to visit Fiona a few years ago. And when I got there, I mean, she was having to stand on a little ledge to be able to hug me because I'm like, you know, she's got no dandruff problems because I'm head and shoulders taller than she is. So she's standing on this little thing. She's giving me a hug. And, you know, like, and for me, having a hug is kind of like the 3-second rule. You know, we can drop food on the floor and pick it up and eat it,
sure,
as long as it's not fluffy. But I kind of think of it in that kind of terms. After 3 seconds, my mind starts racing. Like, okay, this person likes me a lot. How do I reciprocate this? Okay, and then I like patting them on the back, like they're there, you know. And it's like a cat that's picked up, and it's okay being held for 2 seconds. Then afterwards, like, right, I want to get down now.
Right,
you
right.
know, it's kind of like that. That's the uncomfortable. It's a neurological discomfort, not a physiological one. And so, you know, I basically challenged him for about 30 minutes, I think it was. And he's literally saying, you know, I'm done with this guy, because I was still as a guy then. And, you know, he's like pleading, get this person away from me. Yeah. So, so what happens is I end up leaving, and afterwards they're talking crap about me, as they do. And to be fair, we do the same about them, the people on the other side.
Sure.
So, so what happens is his buddy Andrew Rappaport says, "Well, maybe these people aren't as good as you, and how, you know, and you, because you managed to overcome your Asperger's, overcome it, you know." And you know, and it's like, well, wait a second, you don't overcome it. You find coping strategies to deal with it,
right?
But the thing about it is, my perception, and Hillary Pugh's as well, is that he uses it for 2 reasons. The first one is that Aspies tend to be for pretty high IQs. They tend to be really intelligent people. And of course, how nice is it for him to say, I'm really clever, you know? So that just gives him an ego boost in that. And the second one is that people with Asperger's, they tend to be a little bit, they're not very good at socializing sometimes. So they can say things and, you know, come across as really rude because they don't always know what not to say.
Right. Sinister Porpoise talks about how she has trouble picking up on social cues, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the same here.
Right.
You know, and one of the things I do is I rely on other people to sort of give me a hint. You know, I was at a model railway show several years ago, and my friend, I was chatting to someone I hadn't spoken to for ages, and you know, we're chatting for about 30 minutes, and my friend basically nudged me and said, when someone looks for their watch for a third time, they're trying to tell you they've got something else to do than talk to you all day. And that might sound really horrible thing to say to me, but it was just a kick in the backside to say, yeah, I need to disentangle now and let them do stuff as well. And not only that, not have my friend bored to tears listening to me and my friend yabber away.
Sure.
So what happens is, and the other one, so, you know, Aspies can be rude accidentally,
Right,
which gives Slick
right.
opportunity to be a jerk and say, oh, well, it's just my Asperger's. That's what it is. You know? And the thing is...
Off person, hold on.
Yep.
Off person just sent a $2 super chat. Thank you, Ulf. It says, my ADHD vanished by listening to ProLib. Thanks, Ulf. Go ahead. Sorry, that made me laugh.
So what happens is, when you got Andrew Rappaport, you've overcome it. Unlike them, you've managed to overcome it. It's like, while he's basically trying to help Slick up from where I pushed him to the ground, he goes and yanks the rug out from underneath him and sends him flying again, because he can't use that as an excuse anymore. And then at the end of it, he says, well, maybe I don't have it. I'm just going off what my psychologist said. But if psychologist said, but if the atheists want to pay to get me tested, I'm all right. I'm up with that. Who the hell says that?
Nobody. No one normal says that. I don't have
Asperger's, I can go into my drawer and find the paperwork and say, yes, I do.
Right. Yeah, you can prove your diagnosis, right?
Collector. Yeah, Slick is a collector of bits of paper, stuff he's written years ago, and he just sticks it in a box somewhere. You know, so if he's been properly diagnosed, he would have it there. So, you know, and like I say, normally people go in and he just acts like a smug jerk and insults people. Instead, he's just being like shot to bits by me. Gus Boulanger, the week after the TST, because this happened on a Sunday and on the TST for the Tuesday. Gus Boulanger posted a picture, and it was basically RoboCop just blasting away, and said that was what it was like. So it was kind of funny to see that. So that's the second one.
Okay.
And then the third one.
Next one. Yep.
Yeah, the third one goes back to Richard Raspberry. So give me a sec. So what happened was, Richard Raspberry is in the live chat. This is a few days, maybe a week after the Fiona's son got attacked, thanks to Raspberry putting Jason Burns up to saying stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and Jason Burns wouldn't accept responsibility for what he did. It's the atheist's fault. Or you know, she's a Catholic, so she might as well be atheist, you know.
Sure.
In his mind.
Right.
So what happens is, there's a live discussion on Richard Raspberry is on the Awesome Crew show. This is Captain Awesome's show. So he's making excuses. I go in, I'm a part of this conversation. Not really taking a lot of part into it, but so what happened was, Richard, when this "you've doxed me" kind of stuff came out, he made a video and accused Mike Unoya and Alex Bottom of being stalkers, and suggested that Alex had a strange interest in young boys, something of that nature. Yeah, you know, he's a pedophile. Yeah, that's it. You know, like I say, there is no line under which he won't go under. This is what I mean by that kind of person. So what happens is, he makes this video, and on the video it's, you know, Mark Unoya, Mark and, you know, are theist stalkers. So I was in that, and like this had, this had happened like 3 or 4 months before. That was it. And then he went and deleted that video and uploaded a different one where he'd sort of taken away that stuff. And so what happened was, there I am in the Hangout. Now, bear in mind, this is before live chat. So if someone said something, and you're watching it. So if let's say I'm lying about something, you're watching it and you say, wait a minute, I know that was a lie. And so you go looking at it, and then you stick the evidence under the video, and but no one watches
what you're
it.
saying, this was before YouTube had live chats on live streams, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
I think so, anyway. Yeah, I don't think there was a live chat then.
Okay.
I mean, this is about 5 years ago now.
Yeah, it must have been a while ago. Sure.
Oh, yeah. So what happens is, I mean, this is before Steve McRae kind of stuff, really. Right. If he was around, he wasn't really taking part, that's for sure.
Sure.
So what happened was, I just hadn't managed to have saved that original video, and I was in that hangout. And so what happened was, I heard him lie about something, and I challenged him on it, and he said that wasn't true and all that kind of stuff. So then I went and looked through my hard drive, and I'm one of these people that just dumps stuff in places and then sorts it out later. So I'm going through like 3 or 4 months worth of stuff that I've gone and put in a file somewhere. Can't remember where, because I'd bought a new hard drive and just dumped everything in a different place. You know what it's like.
I do.
It's just a jumble.
I do.
Yeah. So so what happens is, and it's a great bit of video. I love it. Every time I saved that video, it's actually an unlisted video on my channel. And so what happens is, if you can imagine, you've got all the boxes at the bottom. And here I am, I'm looking through my other monitor, and I'm just looking and looking and looking, listening away, and everybody else is talking. And then suddenly you just see me go, with a big, massive smile on my face. It's like, right. So there it is. And then over the next one, and I'm just looking, and then I get, and then suddenly it's like, right, gotcha. So what happened was, I'm like, would you like to look at my screen share? And then it's showing up, and then Richard Raspberry ends up going three octaves shriller, and gets pissed, and so on, and tries to mute me and all that kind of stuff, And so I got him by the balls right on the show. It wasn't one of those things that ends up being said somewhere else and half a dozen people only find it. It ends up being slap bang right in the middle, and it shows him to be a lying sack of shit live.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
And after that, exactly. And after that, nobody wanted anything to do with him. His credibility was destroyed. And in the end, all he ended up doing was making videos like going to a library or a bookshop and taking a picture of like a Dawkins book, put it on the fiction shelf, and be like, oh, look, see, even the people at the library think it's fiction. That was it. That was the best he could come up with, that to try and provoke people into communicating with him. Nobody. So, if there's any one thing I'm proud of, it's getting rid of that guy, because he was toxic.
No, it sounds like you
did the right thing.
So you left for a while, and then you came back, right?
Well, I only left for a short amount of time. It was 6 months. I had a row with my friend. Hilary Pugh was my best friend. We had a disagreement, and although we're kind of friendly-ish on terms, having a chat every day is not going to work. So, for my own mental health, I had to say, no, I couldn't do that anymore.
Well, speaking of Hilary, and this is what I wanted to get to. Recently, Hilary gave you permission to release the contents of an old conversation. And I think a lot of people saw the contents of that conversation. It was between... Hold on. Holy Spackle is super chatting. Let's get to that first. Holy Spackle sends $4.99. Thank you very much, Holy Spackle, and says, it's great to see you, Laura. I'm glad that I got to have breakfast with you in the San Francisco. Maybe someday I can meet for breakfast in the UK.
That would be great.
That sounds fantastic. I want to do that too. Okay. I think people saw the conversation, and some of the context is out there, but could you give us kind of the complete picture of what happened between Steve McRae and Hilary Pugh that caused this conversation, this DM'd conversation between them, to occur?
Well, I want to precede with something, because effectively the Great Debate community as a sort of big thing, effectively we have little cliques with people. And so there was the Fundamentally Flawed Facebook group. And, because when I first joined, how do you find where the Hangout links are so you can join one? And of course, there wasn't a live chat to say, how do I join? Here's the link type stuff. This is before I forgot what it's called, where you can kick someone out of a Hangout. I forgot what it's called.
Sure.
Including the host. Sniping. So what happened was fundamentally flawed Facebook group. And then what happens is there's a bit of a row with some people, and that basically collapses. Alex Botton says he doesn't want anything to do with it anymore, this stuff, and so he's gone and done his own thing, and that's better for him. I just keep contact with him somewhat, here and there, a few times a year. So, he's a good friend. I helped him when he was really having some problems. Anyway, so then what happens is, we ended up having Google Plus. So we all ended up going to Google Plus, and we just put out our own stuff. And so people who follow you, a bit like, Twitter or something, they can see what you put up. Well, eventually there are groups, and Steve McRae decides he's going to create his own little G Plus group. And he called it Great Debate Community. And, well, it raised some eyebrows, but we didn't really complain about it because he was on the team. And it was only later when he started doing the, I run the Great Debate Community, I own the Great Debate Community. That's when people say, fuck off. And that's how it fell apart. But it was like 11 months before that happened. So there was and this goes exactly to what you were talking about. So what happens is there's a live stream going on. There's a bunch of us in the side chat, just chatting away, what's going on, arguments being made, things like that. And so what happens is that now I can't remember who it is. And if the live chat was live then, it might even still be around then. I don't think it was back then. I don't think the side chat was saved. But what happens is there was some lady scientist, I can't remember now, whoever the people who were talking, there was a lady there, or there was a reference to someone, like, let's say someone like Scientist Mel, someone like that,
Right.
So Steve basically, mentions her and says, how, she's hot. And then sort of the next line is something along the lines of, I'd love to be her lab partner. And of course, we know what this means. Right. It's basically, when you're a teenager at school and, the cutest girl in class, all the guys want to be her lab partner because that's the only way you can get close to her.
Right. It forces her to pay attention to you. Right. Acknowledge your existence. Yeah.
And of course, the euphemism behind it is basically, I would like to have sex with her. That's basically what the euphemism is. It's right. That's what it is. So Steve makes that kind of remark. And so Hillary's there, said, oh, there goes Steve on the sexism again. And so he says something along the lines of, would you like to be my partner, my lab partner, Hillary? Well, she's been on the end of his sexism before. She doesn't like it, and she doesn't like him. And so she goes private. She goes on her, on the live text, through Google Hangouts, just typing on that. And so she basically tells him what she thinks of him and how he's a jerk, and how he's just some sexually frustrated guy, and that how the shit. Well, all Steve does is go, shut up, just try to dismiss people, because that's what Steve does. His first action and against any form of criticism is just to dismiss them, out of hand. Right. So, well, she's not going to take that, Now I've got to say something, and Hillary's truthful about this. I'm not giving out secret information here. So Hillary is on the far end of the spectrum for Asperger's. Okay, some people are good at, because effectively you've got two aspects. You've got the social side and the analytical side. Right. Now, me, I'm not bad. I'm pretty good on the social side. But when it comes to the analytical side, that's where I'm down. It's almost like in one part I'm good. It's like the scales. One part I'm good, the other part I'm bad at. So, as I mentioned, sometimes I can't tell if I'm talking too much, if I'm talking over someone, because I tend to talk at people. I don't mean to do that. And since I've had the diagnosis in 2010, I've started to learn how not to do that. Sort of have it in my mind. Maybe I'm talking too much. Maybe I'm trying to control the conversation too much. And so, yeah. Now, Hillary, on the social side, she's no good. She really doesn't do it very well. But on the analytical side, she's fantastic, because the only way to survive when you've got Asperger's is to find ways to deal with it. So how do you survive in the world if you've got a limitation? And she said that she's only a few test scores and the high functioning part that stops her being Rain Man. So this gives you an idea of how far she is on the scale. Right. She's incredibly intelligent, very good at analytical stuff. Now, so she won't have Steve trying to just shut her up. And so she keeps going, and you saw how she went. Now, Steve's reaction to having a woman tell him off for being a sexist pig was to announce that he was going to have a hangout. Hillary Pugh, social justice warrior, because all he would do is call her an SJW or SWJ sometimes. He's bad at typing sometimes.
Yes,
and so he was going to have a hangout, basically call her out, talk shit about her for a couple of hours, probably, like he does now, really. And the thing about it is, Steve's a hypocrite anyway, because he says he doesn't do drama, and yet TST, anything to do with Ronnie and the water, DNA degrading in water, he was all over that. He was in TST like a couple of dozen times. But since he said he never really used to go on there, he's only been on a couple of times. Mm-hmm. Not true.
Not true at all.
So, So what happens is Steve says, "I'm going to have a hangout. I'm going to talk shit about it, basically." And but unfortunately, he'd been on the toilet all day, and decided he couldn't do it that day. Now, so what happens is we've got Tuesday is Talk Shit Tuesday. You don't want to get in the way of that, because that's where all the people go. So if you do it during that time, nobody will be watching your video at all, because that's where everyone would go. It was a hub for the little clique of a community that we've got here.
Right.
So then and then on the Thursday, Fiona had a video planned, because one of the things that happens in the discussions is when we're not talking about atheism and things of that nature, or discussing what the definition of atheism is, sometimes other topics come up, and one of the topics that comes up is rape and abortion. And of course, being a community of mostly guys, it usually ends up with 10 guys in a hangout talking about rape and abortion, something that they'll never have to deal with. They'll never have to think about being raped. It's unlikely, possible, but unlikely. They'll never have to deal with, having to, consider, should I have this baby or should I not? If I have this baby, should I donate? Give it away to, for adoption. If I do have it, I'm going to be looking into the eyes of my rapist for the rest of my life, kind of stuff. Things like that. I saw a picture on Twitter recently, and it's every woman knows someone who has raped someone, known a guy that's raped someone, but hardly any guys know any rapists. And I just thought that was an interesting picture.
That is an interesting picture.
Yeah, it was a banner she was holding up.
Well, real quick, we got a couple of super chats I want to get to real quick.
Sure.
Elf Person sends $2 Norwegian and says, "Sing it, Bobo Bobo Batsy Batsy Bobo Bobo." I don't know the song, Ulf. I'm sorry, I don't know what song I'm supposed to be singing. If you tell me what song that's to, I absolutely will sing it. And then Ulf sends two more dollars Norwegian and says, Laura, are you still active on YouTube?
Yes, I still make videos. I mean, I'm working on a video now, but I made one about a week ago, I think it was now. I mean, I'm not one of these people that makes lots of stuff. I am a content creator, but
right. I don't know anybody like that.
I can't say that I'm posting something every week. Sure. It might be months before I post anything. I tend to be more active on Twitter these days. So anyway, going back to the discussion about rape and abortion. So what happened was Fiona decided, I'm going to have a video, because there'd been another one the week before, and it's like, oh, here we go. More guys talking about something they can't ever deal with, they're never going to deal with. So she decides, I'm going to have a discussion, a hangout, about rape and abortion from the women's perspective. And so she had a few women that were prepared to talk like we're talking openly. And there were others that were, had given Fiona some stuff to read out, because they didn't want to read it out themselves, quite possibly because they'll get quite emotional from it. I can imagine that.
Right.
But they weren't. They just couldn't say it openly. Maybe some were anonymous. I don't know all the details. Fiona can probably tell better than that. Well, she can. What I'm talking about. Of course, she can. And sure. So what happens is, Steve's still butthurt about being told off by a woman. And Fiona's got this hangout plan. And Steve decides, I'm going to have a hangout about rape and abortion from the man's perspective. And he decided to do it on the day before Fiona's. So pretty much everybody out of Fiona's hangout, whether reading it out or being in the hangout, pulled out, because the atmosphere would have been toxic. Thanks to Steve, it's going to be a load of stuff going about. And of course, I kind of notice patterns sometimes. And I tell you what, the time it takes from like women get raped to men get accused falsely is about 3.5 seconds. Hyperbolic, of course. But, it doesn't take very long for Steve to go, women make false claims all the time. It happens all the time. And, of course, when you consider that and the rape apologetic stuff that went on, do those dots line up? I don't know, but they do look very.
Don't they tend to, though? Isn't it odd how often those line up? Isn't it weird that the same people that tend to say, oh, well, I think the sex was consensual, or, oh, well, what was she wearing? Oh, was she drunk? Tend to be the same people that do misogynistic things, like saying to somebody in a live chat, hey, I want to be your live partner, and your lab partner, excuse me. And then instead of apologizing, start accusing them and saying that they need to shut up. Isn't that weird?
And he doesn't do drama, of course.
Person says I'm supposed to sing this like Baby Shark, so I'm going to do this real quick. Bo, bo, batsy, bo, 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 batsy, batsy, bo, 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 batsy, batsy, bo, 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 batsy, batsy. There you go.
Now, I can't say that I follow the Steve McRae drama, Steve McRae staggering from one drama to another. And Twitter has made it worse. Because, me and Hillary basically said nothing more to do with Steve. I mean, the fact that I was on his Great Debate G+ group had nothing to do with me liking Steve, and had everything to do with me wanting to be with people I was friends with, because it was a hub of communication within that group. So
there's a question I want to get to, and I apologize because I don't want to bring up something. I hate that the question brings up something that may emotionally affect you negatively, and I apologize about that. But Steve did something that is, to me, just as bad as rape apologetics and misogyny to you personally. You already know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
which
yeah.
saves me from having to ask the question. If you could just talk about the situation so that I cannot feel uncomfortable, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, effectively what happened was we're talking September of 2018, was it?
Something like that.
No, sorry, 2019. Of course it was 2019. I didn't come out as trans to
Right.
everybody until the January. So what happens is, someone pointed to Nick Suter saying that he's never seen Steve lie about anything ever. And so, I have a perfect example of something Steve lies about all the time when he talks about people like me and Fiona and Dragnaught and etc. He says I left them ages ago, which is a lie. It's an absolute lie.
Right.
Because we left him. He had his G plus group, and then a bunch of us tried to reason with him, and then the whole breast tax document was, it's basically a brainstorming session about what issues do we have, and then once that was done, the what was planned to happen was that like the top 5 issues would be things that Steve would be confronted with.
Sure.
Because we still had hope that he could be reasoned with. Like that's going to happen. So
very hopeful.
But he managed to get that, see that before he was going to be confronted with it. And of course people had added stuff, and so he basically made all sorts of allegations about things like that Dragnaught and Mouty were going to steal the community away from him. And the reality of it is that Steve, was saying that he was like, just, a bit lethargic about stuff, just like, because sometimes the stress of running something, owning something, a group, whatever, the stress can get you.
Sure.
And so people said, well, if you're having a bit of a rough time, then hand the keys over to someone else, let them drive for a bit, and when you're ready, it was an honest gesture. But of course, Steve twisted it into, they're trying to steal it away from me. And of course, when breast tax comes along, that just confirms it to him in some kind of weird conspiracy. So it's a bizarre thing. Well, so what happened was September. I've rambled again. I tend to go off on a tangent. Don't be afraid to drag me back.
No, it's okay? Fine. It's fine. I will. I'll put some guardrails in place. But please continue.
Yeah. So what happens is, in fact, you know what? I've got. I can screen share, can't I?
No, not on this. Not on this.
Oh, shame.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me just get the pictures first. Because I've got a folder called Steve Shit. What I'll do is I'll send them to you.
And
so
I can
you
throw it
can
up real quick. That'll be fine. In the meantime, Vincent Jones also wants you to tell the story about who arranged the fundraiser for Red's first P900, which, Vincent, you reminded me, coming up on Requiem for the GDC, not next week. I don't have a date yet. I think that the analyzation so far of the Requiem for the GDC has been very Steve-centric. And Reds was also a prominent person in helping the GDC to fall apart. And I have somebody on the docket who was extremely close to Reds who wants to come on. They're currently not available due to some other things, but they will be on the Requiem. And the Reds rhetoric story, as it connects to the GDC falling apart and being a community now of nothing but drama and teen momness, will be documented by at least one person who is very close to him. And I think another person who is very close to him may also come on. So make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss those episodes. Okay, Laura, you've sent me a couple of screenshots. Now, these are numerically in order. Okay, so let me save this. Oops, I did not mean. I accidentally just did something I didn't mean to do. Okay, so we're going to call this one 11. And then we're going to call this one 12. And then we're going to call this one. Oh, God, I know exactly what these are. I'm getting all angry. Okay. And then I need to go over to my folder here. So you go ahead and start talking, and I will get these up on screen.
Yeah. Okay. So, so there's that one where I've never heard Steve lie about anything, and of course I show, give an example whenever he says I left them, he's lying, because the reality is we left him.
Right. And if you give me, if you count, wait, what is it doing? No, I want to change it to this. There we go. It was, it had the, it was titling it wrong. Okay, so I need to grab it. I need to go to Browse. I need to go here and click this. And here is the screenshot that you're talking about, and I will put it up. It's going to be, I don't know where it's going to position it. I'm just going to put it up on screen. Okay. Oh, whoops. I put it on the wrong one. I put it on that one. Needs to be on this one. It's going to kind of cover your face.
You've done loads of shows. I expect you to be better at it by now.
I know, right? Okay, so this is.
You can stick it over me if you like. There you go.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Oh, whoops.
Okay, so we've got the bits at the top, which and effectively it's Steve just trying to shut me down. He's already tried shutting me down already, but I'm not doing it, and so he decides, as you can see, get over it, Laura. You're just fixated on me. I don't think of you that way, and will never date you. Sorry, you're not my type. You'll have to stop obsessing about me. No means no. Well, of course, no means no is the whole rape thing, isn't it?
Right.
That's got a sexist connotation to it, hasn't it? As if I'm trying to rape him by continuing to not let him tell me to shut the fuck up.
Right.
Which is exactly what happened with Hillary, of course.
Right. That's what I was about to say. It's the exact same thing he did with Hillary. Yep. All right. You ready for the next one?
So, well, no, it's fine, because if you look at my reply, it's like, wow, because I'm trans, he's going to try saying I won't date you? What the fuck? I mean, I chuckle about this, really, because it's like, wow, is that where you're going? Seriously? This makes you look like a real shit.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, Steve can't apologize for anything. So, like I say, it's like, what, because I'm trans, I want to date guys, or guys like you? And I did the vomity face because that was necessary. And again, it says nothing about me. His dickishness there says nothing about me. Right. It only says about what a low piece of, a piece of crap he is.
Right.
So, so that was in September. Now he claimed, after, because you'll see the next picture, go ahead, show that. So this is a couple of months later. He later claimed that he only learned I was trans recently. He knew in September. He'd known for at least 2 months. When was this? What was the date on this one? Was this December, wasn't it? November's 29th, almost December, yeah. So you might want to make that a bit bigger. Because it might be difficult for people to read. The person in the blue box to the left, that's Fiona. Now, there's something important to realize. If you look at that picture, can you see how I'm wearing a sort of a blue turquoise t-shirt? Mm-hmm. That's a picture from me from September 2018. I bought about 4 t-shirts that color because that's my favorite color. And so I bought them for the funeral thing that went on. So him saying that this is from when he knew me is a lie, an absolute bull-faced lie. So so what happens is, a couple of months later to what this is now, this picture here, is Katie Paulson was saying in a tweet how Steve had made her feel uncomfortable in the talking about his penis, in a
Right.
pre-show. And of course, they were alone, and he's now saying that Bullinator is evidence that this never happened. Well, Bullinator wasn't even there. But anyway, so Katie says Steve made me feel uncomfortable, and of course, something you have to remember, guys. When women are put in a situation where guys are talking, like they're teenagers or 20s or whatever, they might make some lewd things about their dicks and stuff like that. And when we're in a room like that, it tends to make them feel uncomfortable. Now, I can't say that I've got a long history of living as a woman, but I can certainly understand through what I have seen in how this is basically the bottom of Me Too here.
And the counter argument that I've heard Steve using is, well, how can you be offended by the word penis? Well, no one's saying that the word penis is offensive, or that anytime you say the word penis, you're going to make somebody feel uncomfortable. It's when you're talking about your own penis in a sexual manner that makes someone uncomfortable. If I just
I'll give you an example.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'll give you an example. Okay, so I'm transgendered, but unfortunately, thanks to the NHS system, I'm like 4 years away. I'm about 3.5 years away from getting hormones, let alone a year for them to do something. And then on top of that, got loads of other stuff. But if I decide to get surgery, that might be 5-10 years away from now. If I decide to do it now, would you feel uncomfortable if I mentioned what I might be doing with my penis?
I mean, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least, I think you might cross your legs and think, "Oh, that mentally is uncomfortable."
Explicitly asked you, like if I had some, and I don't know why I would ask, but let's say I had some reason, like I knew somebody else that was transitioning and was like, "Oh, I'm curious about this thing, and I'd like your perspective or something." But yeah, if you just brought it up in a conversation, I'd be like, "Yeah, I think that was a little weird." Yeah,
it would be uncomfortable.
Sure.
And I think, and perfectly reasonably so. So when Steve thinks he can talk about his penis with a woman there, and it's like, really, and so what happens is women, they don't want to be confrontational and say, look, can you please not talk about your penis like that? I don't want to know what the contents of your underwear is. Really, thanks. Well, there's repercussions from stuff like that. Oh, well, I was only joking. And so on. There are so many excuses guys can make. Obviously, I'm somewhere in the middle here, on the guy-girl kind of thing.
Sure.
So, I'm now getting a real sense of how it feels. I was a month into my transition. I had gone, some guy propositioned me for sex. A month. I've had about at least 2 other occasions when, I've had some kind of pervy guy look me up and down like a piece of meat. This is stuff that happens. A lot of people don't realize this stuff, and it's really uncomfortable.
Sure.
Now, and so I don't want to talk about trans stuff as such, but we should get back to the picture.
Oh, yes, the final one.
So,
let me pull that up.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Here we go. Oh, it's a little off, but
no, that's the third one. What?
Oh,
go back
right.
one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what happens is, Katie Paulson says, says that that Stephen made me feel uncomfortable, and so. I posted the first picture saying, that, Steve has said crap like this to me, and I'm trans. And, that was the first picture, the I will never date you, no means no.
Sure.
And so what happened was she then made a video and she, and she basically said that, Steve has done this kind of thing to other women. and mentions other women, but it has me on the list. Me and Fiona are on the list. I think Exiled was another one. And so Steve's reaction to this is to post a picture of me as a guy. This is in the end of November. I started transitioning in the December of 2018, and came out to everybody on the night of the 12th, 13th of January. And, you know, he goes and posts a picture of me from September 2018. Bear in mind, I hadn't had anything to do with him since what was it? The end of 2017, when everybody left his GDC group.
Yep.
So we're talking a year before any of us had anything to do with him. And then he posts the picture of me as a guy that he'd taken from TST in 2018. And then claims that it was from before 2017. He's lying. He's absolutely lying.
Absolutely
when he says that. You know. So, and it's like, this is Fiona and Laura. Now, that's not a picture of Laura. That's a picture of Cliff Jumper.
Right.
So he's not even representing me as I am. My suspicion is that he went looking for a picture of me and either went to my channel or my Twitter, and my pinned tweet is a picture of me wearing a rather short dress and thinking, oh, is this a bit too short for me? Am I dressing like a 20-year-old? And, you know, I'm 45. And I've got people being nice to me saying, no, just wear what you want. If it works for you,
I agree.
Wear
what you want. If you're happy with it, just wear what you want.
It's one of those weird trans things, because you're trying to find your way and what works for you.
Sure.
And, you know, I mean, I've seen two things, which is one video saying things trans women shouldn't do. Don't dress up too young for yourself. You're going to look like, you know, mutton dressed as lamb, as the British, probably Scottish would say.
Sure.
You know, because, you know, like, older people don't wear that kind of thing. So dress your age is basically what they're saying. And then I saw a tweet picture, or maybe someone on Facebook, and it's like, if you see a trans woman wearing something too young for her, give her a break. She didn't have a childhood. She didn't have a 20s like that.
That's what I was thinking. Like, you never had your 20s, so why not live them now? That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But
so,
real quick,
what
before we continue, Sinister Porpoise said, Steve's behavior is consistent with an unprincipled narcissist whose only goal is to hurt his opponents. And I just wanted your thoughts on that.
I think you're right. And to be honest, I see exactly the same thing with Red's rhetoric and Cheshire.
Yeah.
I say Cheshire because that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. Because I live 5 minutes away from Cheshire. I could walk it in 5 minutes. It's just over the river. You're in Cheshire.
Well,
anyway,
then I think you have full permission. Yes.
Yeah, and not only that, of course, the Cheshire Cat was written by, you know, the character is.
And guardrails. I want to wind this down in about 10 minutes, so we have time for questions too. So.
Sure. Yep. No problem. Okay. So, I'm trying to think of a way to make it quick. Okay. So yeah. So he posts that picture of me as a guy to say, oh, there's no way that you know, Katie's, you know, I couldn't possibly have, you know, sexually harassed Fiona and Laura. You know, now, you know, the picture of Fiona is a low res one, which doesn't make her look as good as what she actually looks like in real life.
Sure.
So he posted an unflattering picture of her deliberately.
Of course.
He's taken a picture of me as a guy deliberately.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I couldn't possibly sexually harass those people, you know, and it's like, so he posts a picture of me and then claims, and if you jump to the next picture, you can see.
Here we go. Oh, let me make that a little smaller.
That's actually that's a good one. It's perfectly spaced.
Oh, actually, it is
Fiona is
just
attractive, and I've never seen Laura as anything other than what I posted. She said she's transition. That's transition, Steve. But I do not associate with her, and have not seen her transition that I recall. I wouldn't even know what she looked like, so I used a photo of how I know her, which is a
Imagine
lie.
being. Yes, it is. And I'm going to remove this because I prefer looking at your face. Imagine being so bad at the English language that you can't even insult someone properly, and you have Steve McRae. Good Lord.
Yeah.
In your opinion, and this is how I think
If I can just say something.
Oh,
what
sure.
Steve
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Steve needs to get himself a spoiling checker to deal with those smelling piss takes.
In your opinion, and I think that your opinion is the right one to have here. Is it this attitude of the fact that if somebody disagrees with me, I not only have to confront them, I have to do everything I can to harm them? Do you think that's one of the reasons why the Great Debate community has failed as epically as it has?
It is Steve's Great Debate community.
Steve's Great Debate community. Yes, that's what that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, I've had to think about what Steve is like, and I have a feeling that what happens is, when you're 15, 16, 17, your mum's not being able, you can go and do stuff and your mum can't hear you. So you end up being really polite to the neighbors and things like that. But when you're with your buddies, that's when you start being a sexist dick and talking about women like they're a piece of meat and stuff like that. Okay? It's a teenage thing. You swear a lot. You're antagonistic. I'm gonna screw that guy over. Things like that. It's a kind of teenage angst. They're still kids, but they want to be grown-ups now.
Right.
And
they're
sort of
finding their center,
but haven't actually got there yet.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So then what happens is Steve joins the Navy and is in a group where you've got mostly guys, and they can locker talk, a bit like Trump said, it's just locker talk type stuff. So they get away with it like that. And then what happens, and of course, he's effectively gone from a teenager, joined the Navy, got into his 20s, and he hasn't changed since. He hasn't grown up. Perfect example, Captain Awesomeo. A bunch of us all met in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Captain Awesomeo was basically, the boisterous young guy who, managed to get the keg of beer for the party kind of thing. He's the cool dude, and he's great at it. But he also knows when to be the cool dude and when to be the grown-up.
Right.
And Steve doesn't have that ability, in my opinion.
Yeah, somebody just said, it was Holy Spackle. She said, there are great players and moments in the Great Debate, broad sense, and there are some messed up moments with bad players, even outside of Steve. And I agree with you, Spackle, and I think it's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get some more red-centric evaluations or whatever as part of this Requiem, because while Steve's horrible and was one of the main reasons why it got pulled down, there was a clique there, and some of those people are still in that clique together. And it's this attitude that you were just talking about, Laura, this locker room attitude where there are some people that they say are lesser for whatever reason, whether it's because they have a vagina or because they're trans or they just don't agree with them. And so it doesn't matter if we hurt their feelings because they don't like me. They've criticized me, so their feelings don't matter anymore. And that's what Steve does, is he says, if you're willing to criticize me and you're not willing to acknowledge his moral superiority, then...
Oh, you mean his unimpeachable ethics?
His unimpeachable ethics. Good fucking Lord. If you're not willing to admire them, you deserve nothing but hurt. Not just scorn, but pain. And he will do what he can to hurt you, harm you as much as possible. And Daryl Frost says, guys in the Navy do not talk like that about women, even when there are no women around. And Daryl, I don't think Laura was saying that all guys do. It's just whatever group he was in did.
There are groups like that. Again, right, you end up with little cliques in all sorts of things. And this is an important thing to bear in mind. It deals with what you said about and what Spackle said. I'm into model trains, okay, and thanks to I'm actually the vice chair of Model Railway Society. That's how much I'm into it. I jokingly refer to my modelling standards as a circumcision standard. You go all the way or you just don't bother. Now, as a result of being in community, sometimes you realise that the only thing you have in common with someone is that you play with model trains, or you're an atheist, or whatever. Sure. In every other way, whether it's economically or socially or politically, you're just poles apart.
Right.
And so there are sometimes, you can't be friends with someone. And this is the reason why we have these cliques, because what happens is we get to a point, I've seen exactly the same thing with the Clown Car Posse. By the way, Clown Car Posse is something that Alex Botton came up, coined as a phrase, because it's like, each one of them is like a clown, and they're trying to drive this car, and each one of them tries to seize control of the wheel and just smashes it into one direction, and someone else does it in the same thing and smashes it into another direction. It's just spilling all over the place, burning into flames,
I love it.
Now, with the Clown Car Posse, there have been times where when they're not getting pissy about the atheists and what the atheists are doing or saying or whatever, they start talking about stuff that they're interested in themselves, and they start talking about their belief system. And that's when you find that the massive cracks between, what they think is the true way of Christianity that they disagree on. And so they end up falling out about with each other. Perfect example. G-Man once claimed that it isn't adultery if your wife gives you permission. So what happens is Bubba Thumping and Matthew 4:19, they go to him quietly, as you're supposed to do as a Christian, and they say, look, you're wrong here, mate. That's not the way it works at all. And they try to explain it. Of course, G-Man cannot take correction, a lot like Steve. And so he just rails and shouts and says they're not Christians and they're awful people and they're Satanists. I can't remember if he said that, but he was going along that lines. You're not proper Christian. You can't tell me what's right. He tried doing the same thing with the what was it called? Shield. Forgot what it's called now. Dreadnought talks about them. Shield Squad. That was it.
Oh, Shield Squad.
Yeah, they have an approach that they want to go, and G-Man, they invite G-Man into their group, and G-Man suddenly thinks, well, wait a minute, I've got more subscribers than you, so therefore I should decide who's going to be running the way it should go. This is where groups get together and then they fall apart, because at the end of the day, it really comes down to social interaction. And there are some people that are not very good at social interaction. I'm not very good at it sometimes. Most of the time I'm okay, but unlike someone like Steve, and this is like something that Drag has mentioned before, you need your friends to check you, to keep you on the path, and I've gone to people quietly and I said, look, am I right on this? I think it's like this. Am I right? Because I want effectively like guidance. So the way I describe it is, you're driving through a city. You're not really familiar with it. You've got a general idea where you're going, but you're a little confused and there's no signs, and you just sort of think, right, you pull over, you wind down the window, you say, excuse me, mate, am I on the right way to so-and-so? Yeah, just follow it down about 2 miles, it's on the left.
Right.
And that's what I do. I basically ask people sometimes, am I going on the wrong track here? Am I thinking the wrong thing? And I can take that.
Right.
The likes of Steve can't take that.
No, he's incapable.
Yeah. And Reds is largely the same as well. He uses boisterous and swear words in lieu of actual reasoned arguments. He just calls people stupid.
He just screams obscenities at people. That's all he does.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, when it came to, I'm going to go to the funeral thing. So there was the funeral and the gathering around it. Mm-hmm. Basically about 20 of us, I can't remember how many it was now. It was a lot. Hung around for a week.
Real quick, before you get real quick.
Yep.
Hold on. Everyone, we're going to start taking questions as soon as Laura's done talking here. So if you have questions for myself or Laura before we get out of here, go ahead and tag me in the chat and ask your question, and then I'm going to go through them. And if you have asked questions up until now and I didn't ask it, pretend I didn't see it, because I probably didn't, and just go ahead and put it back in there, and then I will ask the question to Laura. Okay, go ahead with the funeral story.
Okay, so most people are probably aware with this, but if you're not, effectively what happened was Jade died, but we'd all, Reds and Steve and Bullinator and that group had split off, and so there were us on the other side, and we were buddies, and it's like, right, we're going to meet up at a hotel near San Francisco, and and we're going to basically spend a week together, and then we'll have a day down to go on the boat and and do the memorial part, which was the funeral-y part. And it was a great time. It was great to meet people I'd never met before. And I mean, at that point, only 3 people knew I was trans at that time, and I was thinking about transitioning. And that was Kevin and Jackie and Fiona. Jade had known for years before. And one of the things to bear in mind is that, if you don't already know this, Jade was a wonderful lady. And my mum doesn't accept me as I am. She actually disowned me the day before Mother's Day last year because I wanted to go and give her a present for Mother's Day. But I tend to take bad things into good things, so I've got good stuff to say about the response to it. It gave me the chance to get rid of all my guy clothes, So looking forward, not looking back, holding on to an anchor. Right. Anyway, so well, I told Jade about me about 2 years before she died, and I said I wish my mummy accepted me for who I am, but she doesn't. And Jade, bless her heart, she said, "I'll be your mum then." And so she was like a cyber mum. I could privately talk to her about stuff that was going on, and she'd listen and sort respond and things like that. And so when she died, it really hurt, because effectively it wasn't it wasn't a funeral for a friend. It was my cyber mum, as it were. And so, I mean, the day she died, I was in bits. I was crying all day. I was in a hangout listening with my microphone off because I'm crying all the time because it had so upset me.
I'm sure.
And so I needed to go, and, I had a couple of issues, but, and I didn't have any money. And so, Reds, and I've thanked him for it. He helped me get there. He basically allowed me to go on his channel and, ask for some help. And, thanks to some of his followers, they did. I mean, I did make a thank you video the day before I came out as trans, or it was actually the same day. And the reason I did that is because, I promised to say thank you, but of course, all the shit that came out after the funeral stuff, as soon as it would go quiet, I think, oh, now I can make the video, it would all start up again.
Right.
And so I had to leave it until the day before I came out to say thank you, because there was an element about it. Anyway, so when it comes to the funeral, all approaching it, Reds is, not active in the, there was a Google Hangout thread where people were just, it was like the hub for all the people that were going.
Sure. And
how we're going to do stuff, and do you want to go to different places, and been to San Francisco, want to do this, excuse me. So Reds is in there, and he's setting himself up as a designated driver, talking about hiring a big minivan, a van thing, like 9-10 people in a van kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, well, and there was no hint that he was going to have a problem here until I flew out. I flew out the day before everybody else because it was cheaper for me to fly out one day early, stay at an Airbnb overnight, and then meet the first person, which was going to be Reds, at the airport, and then Fiona was going to be arriving a few hours later. So there I am at the airport waiting for Reds to turn up, and I don't know what he looks like, because he's always got his camera off, so don't know what he looks like. All I know is what he sounds like.
Right.
So what happens is the first thing I know is when someone slams a bag at my feet, and then I was like, And then he picks it up and then walks off. And I'm like, oh, okay, that must be him then, because strangers tend not to do that kind of thing,
Right.
Obviously, so I walk around the corner. He's on the phone. He's talking to Sean Hufford, and then and then it's like, I'm guessing you're Reds then. And he said, I thought the hat would have given it away, in a very flat and somewhat slightly aggressive tone. And it's like, because he's wearing a red Tesla hat, as if that's going to be a hint of, maybe if he'd told me what he was going to be wearing, that might have helped. But I didn't know until, I think it was the day before or 2 days before, what flight he was going to be on and which terminal he was going to be arriving in.
Sure.
So, and like, well, who does that? Who dumps a bag at the feet? I mean, the last time I met someone, so I used to go to these trans gatherings in America.
Guardrails, because we got to do questions.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay.
So then what happens is we go and have some McDonald's or whatever it is, and he says, I'm not here to have fun. I'm not here to have a good time. I'm only here for a funeral. And then he decides he needs to sleep because he's been awake all day. He'd been working and flying and stuff like that. So there we are. He's sleeping in a chair. I'm waiting outside the gate on the international terminal. And that's, and it's like the plane should have, landed an hour ago. She still hasn't come through the thing. I'm asking strangers, like, how long were you waiting going through the security system and immigration and all that kind of stuff? Oh, it was about 40 minutes. So half an hour over. We should have seen her half an hour ago.
Right.
And so Reds wakes up, comes to me, said, she's not here yet. And she said, well, she was coming in on a different flight, and it's like, I thought she was coming in from London. No, he didn't even let me know really until, because he kind of spat out like some vagaries, but didn't, it's like, oh, I heard she was on a different flight or something. But it didn't tell me any information. Mm. And so it was only later that we realised that she was coming in domestically. The flights had been a bit fuzzy, and she'd had to fly into Chicago and then go from Chicago to San Francisco, which means she's not coming on the international terminal. She's coming in a domestic one.
Right.
So we then rush over, and of course, just our luck, the monorail thing ends up going a different way. So it took us longer to get there, and so she'd already arrived, and she was having a cigarette outside. So, that's how we met. And that night, it seemed to be okay. It was a bit frosty, but didn't seem so bad.
So I have a question for you. Wait, hold on. I have a question for you. Were you there when they hugged hello?
Yeah, and it was a very brief and not very,
So you were there when Red's girlfriend at the time took those pictures that are so famous of Reds and Fiona?
Oh, no, she hadn't arrived till the next day.
Okay.
She arrived on flight the next day.
Because there's an allegation around that hug.
Oh, that's a different one.
Oh, okay. That was a different hug. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was when Fiona went to New York and met up with Nate and
That's
Reds
right.
and
I'm
Hannah.
sorry. I was conflating the two. I apologize.
Yeah, completely different.
I apologize.
So,
okay. Finish up because we want to get to questions.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we all gather up, we all have a good time, with the exception of Reds, who's basically a jerk for the entire time. JD Kane introduces him to his wife, and he goes, whatever. Yeah, nice to meet you, whatever. I mean, he was horrible with Captain Awesemo. They'd never had a problem. He wasn't one of those, our team had a problem. I don't even think he was ever in the Steve's GDC thing. Because Awesemo, he's kind of like, he's a bartender and he disappears for ages and then comes back, and but he's like friends with a few people, tends to be privately, but so effectively what we've got is Red's come over, he acts like a jerk, walks himself away from everybody, and when he comes out he's obnoxious. And it's like, and then afterwards, it's like he didn't want to be around us. It's like, well, why the hell did you turn up?
I think he needs a book on manners. I'm serious. Yeah. Like, I think he just doesn't know manner. Like, he just doesn't know them. He doesn't know how he's supposed to act.
I disagree. I disagree. I think he deliberately went there. He wanted to be close to Hannah and wanted to treat everybody like shit. Because what he said is, when, right there, I'm not going to start anything. All he did was act like a jerk so other people could start it. It was his excuse to then be shit. You see what I mean?
Gotcha.
Now, the thing about it is, think about it this way. Okay,
sure.
So let's say I am Riz Rhetoric, and there's this gathering.
You can't be Riz Rhetoric because you'll actually come on my channel. He won't come on here, even though he's been invited many times. But go ahead.
So, no, I'm talking about there's this funeral gathering, okay? I'm Red.
Facetious.
I don't want to be around those people. I just want to go for the funeral thing. That's the important part. Remember, I'm not here to have a good time. I'm not here to make friends. I'm just here for a funeral, okay? What I would do is I would fly in, stay at a hotel overnight, go down to the boat, do the funeral thing, come back to land, get in the car, and either go to the airport or go to the hotel and go home. That's what I would do if I didn't want to be around those people. What I wouldn't do is turn up, be a jackass, set myself up as a designated driver, and then get pissy when people didn't want to be around him.
Holy Spackle is asking, in what ways has being part of the Great Debate challenged and or bettered you?
It's taught me more social graces. It's a bit like, as I mentioned earlier, I need to find coping strategies. And, I think it's helped me. And it's nice to have friends. I mean, until I transitioned, I had more people who call me Cliff than called me my old male name.
Yeah, your dead name.
I have more people who call me Laura that live over 1,000 miles from me than live within 10 miles of me.
That's so sad.
Yeah, there you go, JD Kane. Remember when we were deciding where to eat? He took us to a restaurant that was unbeknownst to us 45 minutes away in San Francisco, just so he could meet some flat earther buddy. So, yeah, I'm going out for some food. Anybody want to come? And so Kevin and Jackie and JD Kane and, get in and go somewhere. And it's, he just like practically ignored them effectively.
Right.
It was just bizarre.
That is bizarre. Jake 4D sends a $5 super chat and says, guys in the Navy is a generalization. I know people who were passed around by guys in the Navy, but some guys in the Navy are shit and some are not. No, and we said that. Again, Laura wasn't making a generalization about every guy that's in the Navy, just that Steve was in a bad group in the Navy.
Well, we'd have to be careful because, of course, I could be making homosexual references in the Navy.
Right.
Sorry.
Sister Porpoise. No, it's okay. Sister Porpoise says, what's Laura's favorite resource in Minecraft? Mine is lapis lazuli.
Mine is, I have no idea because I don't play it. And the reason why I don't play it is not because I don't have I have a problem with it. It's more that I know it is a time hole.
Okay.
And I know that it's the kind of thing I might get obsessed with. And next thing you know, I'm spending hours and hours playing a video game and not doing any railway modeling or whatever.
The best part about doing this series is the people that show up in the chat while I'm doing it. And both Ocean and JD Kane are in the chat right now. Hi, Ocean and JD Kane. JD Kane says it's not about manners. Redline has psychological damage that leads to this kind of aberrant behavior. He needs therapy. JD, I completely agree that the people send me things that I don't talk about. Like, if you guys saw my DMs, I know stories. I know some stories. You think these are stories? I know some stories. I agree. I think that Redline needs therapy. I totally 100% agree. And that's somebody who's coming from somebody who's been to a lot of therapy in his life. Jenny Kane also says, remember when we were deciding, oh, no, sorry, wrong one. Yet again, made my wife furious as she would have gone, if she had known where we were going, we got in the van expecting fast food and ended up at fast food 45 minutes away. Don't get me wrong. I went on the New York trip with Redline and he was perfectly fine. So apparently it was the San Francisco line. I thought you meant abhorrent. That's what I thought you meant, Jenny. But yeah, it was apparently the San Francisco trip that for whatever reason triggered him into being a dickhole.
Justin is the best person to talk to about Reds.
Who?
And I think didn't you say that? Sorry, did I say Justin Vincent? I'm sorry. Don't know why I say that sometimes.
Right.
Didn't you say you're going to have Vincent on soon?
I'm not saying who I'm having on soon. It's a
Oh,
surprise
okay.
who I'm having on soon. But I'm having somebody
Fair
who
enough.
I'm having hopefully more than one person. There was a one time very close to Reds during the GDC thing who can give us some perspective. So listen, I would love for Reds himself to come on.
Questions. Yeah.
You know,
I'm ready for questions.
I would love to have both Steve McRae and Reds Rhetoric on this series to come talk about the great debate community from their perspective and get their perspective instead of people just commenting on them. But they would never do that.
They won't. And
I'm
you know
a horrible
why?
person who wants to ask some questions.
Yeah. Well,
please
first,
tell me why.
I mean, okay, Reds might, but you would have to goad him and go to his ego. But I don't think he would anyway. Steve will never do it.
No.
Because Steve is a coward. Okay. And I say this because if you remember the rape apologetics thing.
Oh, I remember.
Now, I had Reds call me, what was it, bitch maid, because I said, why would I want to go and talk to you about what Steve thinks rather than talk to Steve about what Steve thinks?
Right.
And if you think about it, so, you know, Rob Lane, Science First, he went on and had a debate with Reds. And at one point he says, I don't know, you'll have to talk about Steve about that. It's like, why is he talking to Reds about what Steve thinks? You know, Reds was effectively being the heroic interventioning, lieutenant, young lieutenant who leaps in front of the king to take the bullets for him.
What's funny is I did that video of that secret. It wasn't really secret. It was a hangout between everybody right after the brass tacks or right before the brass tacks document was released. I think it was the night before. And it's recorded without their permission, so I didn't play it. Although I think a piece of it was just released recently. But it's funny because it's like a 7-hour hangout, and I only have about half of it. I have the last half. Everybody's in there, and then Steve leaves, and then Reds leaves. And then Reds comes back in, and he's like, listen, I think I can get Steve to listen to all of this. I think I can get him to cooperate. And then Reds leaves, and then they both come back in. And Reds is like pretending that he's going to be this, as you said, like the peacemaker, the great, you know, he's going to throw himself in front of the king and say, no, Steve, don't. And instead, he's apparently going to Steve and saying, all these people are assholes and fuck them all. Let's throw them all out of the GDC and just do whatever we want with it. Very, very two-faced person. Holy Spackle says, ask Laura if she misses explaining to Christian apologists that they should read the entire Bible.
Oh gosh, sometimes. I mean, I've actually said this to, you know, street preachers in Manchester. What she's referring to there, and it's a little joke we have together in a way, I suppose. There's a chap called Christian Anarchist, also known as, well, he's called RC Apologist now, which is amusing to me because most people think Christianity RC equals Roman Catholic. He's not.
Right.
So what happens is he's a really nice guy. He's an honest guy as well. You know, he's not like Clown Car Posse material. And what happened was I said he was dishonest, because not intellectually dishonest, sorry, because we had a discussion and I said, look, there are conflicts in the Bible. There are contradictions. And he's like, no, there aren't. And I'm literally leading him. It's like, okay, how many angels were in the tomb? Is it one or two? And it's because one version there's one version there's two. And then you got the Michael Bay version where there's none, and that's a giant earthquake, and an angel swoops out of the sky and moves the tombstone out of the way and sits on it. Now, so what happened was I'm leading it there like 1 and 2 are different things, aren't they? Yes. Okay, so if there's 2, then 1 is not true, isn't it? Yes. And if there's 1, 2 is not true, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so which is right? 1 angel or 2 angels? They're both the same. And so I ended up saying to him, I said, look, have you actually read all the Bible yet? And he kind of paused for a second and then said, not yet, or no, not yet. And it's like, wait a second, because he was taking a certainty position
Right.
of Bible inerrancy, but he hadn't actually read it to see whether it was inerrant yet. And I thought that was intellectually dishonest because, okay,
Yeah.
I'm a
is.
Christian. I've been told it's inerrant. Okay, well, I'm going to take that as a provisional position, until I've read it, and then I can draw a conclusion on it. Now, if my conclusion is, yes, it's inerrant, okay, fine, and we can discuss that. If it's like, well, okay, it's not inerrant, but I still believe in God and Jesus and say, he saved us and all that kind of stuff, okay, fine. He's found a way to square it, but, you can't take a certainty position and Bible inerrancy until you've read it to tell whether it is inerrant. And every time I would bump into him in a hangout or whatever, I'd say, have you read all your Bible yet? And he's like, no. How far are you up to? Isaiah. Okay, great. And so I was waiting for him to finish it in order to be able to have a discussion, because what he was doing is he was trying to be an apologist, but he hadn't actually read it all he didn't have all the information yet. And it just like,
Right.
and like I say, I said that was intellectually dishonest.
Sure.
And I mean, Odie Spackle, she said that he shouldn't be taken seriously as an apologist until he'd read it. And he actually, on G Plus then, he said that he was making a video because I'd claimed that he shouldn't be taken as seriously as apologist until he'd read all the Bible. And I said, that's not what I said. I said, you can't take a certainty position until you've read it. Right. And then he went and made it, and I warned him. I said, if you make that, because he said he'd already done the audio, I said, and he hadn't done the video stuff. And I said, if you post that video, I will wring your ass for it, because you'll be false. I forgot what it's called now. When you tell lies about someone, they're bearing false witness. That was it.
Oh, bearing false witness.
Bearing false witness.
Sure.
And so he then removed it. And so he was honest enough to do that.
Well, at least he was honest enough to do that.
Well, that's the thing I like about him. He's a nice guy.
Well, listen, I could literally sit here and talk to you forever, but at some point I have to go to bed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
You can find my YouTube channel, and that's really easy. It's just like youtube.com/cliffjumper24. Still works. Goes straight to my channel. And I'm on Twitter at nowbeinglaura, now_being_Laura.
That's awesome.
It's a shame we haven't got more time for questions.
I know. But unfortunately I have to be up early, so I have to go.
And I turned up late.
Yeah. But before we go, tomorrow night on Twitch, join me. I will be doing an episode of Content Curation with Godless Engineer. Content curation is where we talk to content creators about creating. It's a different aspect of probably what you usually see. So far, I've interviewed Holy Spackle. I've interviewed Transgarter, Shay and Callan from Transgarter, and Godless Engineer will be my third guest. I'm very, very excited about that. And next week will be another Requiem of the GDC. It'll be episode 6, and I don't know who the guest is yet, because I need to find one. And if you are someone who is from the old GDC and you want to be on, you should probably DM me, because the first one who does, I'm probably like, oh, okay. Starfire says this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, ProLib and Laura. Well, thank you, Starfire, for being here and watching. Before
I do have a quick thing to say. If you've enjoyed this, hit the thumb up button, please. Only fair.
Yes, please. I'm sorry. Somebody just said there's a filing on Kyle's case. Of some kind. I don't know. I can look for it real quick. I didn't know that this was happening. Active cases. Let's see. James Gale, I know, is the judge. I mean, I'm curious about it, so I would like to read it. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, McCrae v. Curtis. Let's see. I've got the case. Is it under dockets? Yes, there's an other motion. Oh, well, there are two. Brief in support of Kyle Curtis's amended motion to set aside entry of default. Okay.
That could be the response to,
yeah, this is... it's about the governing standards. It's analyzing the argument. For the reasons stated in this brief, defendant Kyle Curtis respectfully moves the court to set aside the entry of default under North Carolina Rule of Civil Procedure 55D, to set aside the partial judgment under North Carolina Rule of Civil Procedure Rule 60B, and to grant all other relief that it deems necessary. It looks like the argument, proper service, is about proper service, and that the service was not proper. Moreover, a person relying on the service of a notice by mail must show strict compliance with the requirements of the statute. Okay. Although defective service of process may sufficiently give the defending party actual notice of proceedings, such actual notice does not give the court jurisdiction over the party. Wow. Okay. So even though it doesn't give the court jurisdiction, and that's according to the law. That's not her making the argument. It was found in Fulton. It was found in Johnson v. City of Raleigh, and Thomas and Howard Company versus Trimark Catastrophe Services. So that's three different. Here, Mr. McCrae attempted to serve Mr. Curtis by certified mail at the residence of Mr. Curtis's mother, though he was living in Charlotte. In sum, Mr. McCrae's attempted service of the summons and complaint to an older address was procedurally defective. Ooh, I like that wording. I like procedurally defective. What a great... that defect is a jurisdictional one that renders the partial judgment against Mr. Curtis void. Accordingly, Mr. Curtis requests the entry of default and default judgment be set aside. All right. How do I go back? Do I click this? I do. All right. And then there's another motion. Pursuant to Rules 55D and 60B, Kyle Curtis submits this amended motion to set aside the entry of default. The particular basis for Mr. Curtis's motion are detailed in the supporting brief. Wherefore... defendant Kyle Curtis respectfully requests that the court set aside the entry of default under North Carolina Rule of Civil Procedure this day. This is very, very short. The undersigned certifies that the foregoing has been served on all counsel of record. That's it. It's a 3-page brief. So, yeah, there's not a lot there. The link is in my Discord. If you go to my Discord in the general channel, Fiona put it up there, so you can go read it yourself. You go, you click, it's Judge James L. Gale on the left, you hit go, you scroll down to McCrae v. Curtis, you hit the button for dockets, and then you can bring up each one of the documents. But the other motion is only 3 pages, and the summary is 8 pages. So it's very, very short. It's easy to read. So there you go. I read them for you. That was pretty quick. Laura, thank you so much for being here. And
thank you. Did you see the comment at the bottom here?
Oh, I didn't. What have we got here? Oh, it's too. I gotta make it. Joey D and Todd are busy talking on Red Streams about this stream and about how they aren't afraid of debating pro. Guys, I've challenged Reds to a debate for like 6 months. 6 months. I've been trying to debate him. So, if he's not afraid, then why haven't we had a debate yet? Like. No, it's okay, Cherie. You didn't hijack. I wanted to read that anyway. But yeah, there's not a lot there. We knew that was going to be fat. It was just a motion to set aside. Red, anytime you want to debate, Reds, if you listen to me, this is what I want to say to Red's rhetoric, since apparently he's listening. Reds, listen to me. Okay? There's now been 5 episodes of this. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot of people throwing shit and shade at you. Okay? Here's the deal I'll make. If you want to come on, I won't say a word. I won't say a word, or I'll only ask questions from the live chat, however you want it. If you want to come on and give your side of what happened with the GDC, I won't say a word. I'll shut up. It'll be Requiem for the GDC, Red's rhetoric. I won't say one word. And you can talk and talk and talk. Say whatever you want. You can answer questions from the live chat or not answer questions from the live chat. We can have the messages on the screen or not have the messages on the screen, however you want it. I want to be fair and give you and Steve the chance to come on, have your own episodes, and say whatever you want to say. You can and not be interrupted. I won't interrupt you, or I will ask you questions, however you want to do it. You know how to reach out to me, Reds. You know how to reach out to me. We have mutual friends. My email, asaprogressiveliberal@gmail.com, is on my YouTube page. You can email me. If you want to come on, bud, you're invited. If you want to have a debate, I'm up for that. Whatever it is, however you want to do it, I'm game. Anytime. Anytime. You just let me know. Laura, thank you again for being here. I'm going to go ahead and you'll be swept away from the screen very artistically. So wave goodbye so that it looks nice and pretty. Low wave, and there we go. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. On your way out, I need you to do two things. I need you to hit the like button, and I need you to put a B in chat, because B is for Batsy, and Batsy is our head admin. She creates most of the art here on the channel, like 95% of the art. 95% of the art created on the channel is created by Batsy, including the lovely nameplates that both myself and Miss Laura had tonight, all created by Batsy. So if you could just put the B in chat, that's how we say, it's how we say thanks. That's how we say thank you to Batsy. Yes, I love you guys, and thank you for being here. This was fantastic, and most of the reason it was fantastic was because of all of you. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.